Hello everyone, and welcome back to some more Tokyo Babel with me, Phantom Zwei. When we last left off, we found out just how insane Sheena was, or quote-unquote Sheena. Who knows who she actually is, who knows who we actually are. But things are certainly strange. That's the best word I can use for this. Let's see what happens. The Witch of the Night inclined her head and smiled, paying no heed to her injuries.
ちょっと何よ。これでも若いのよ、私は。心はいつでも11歳ってやつ。若くて未熟なのよね。
11 seems a little bit young. The man, Setsuna, came forward in an instant, stepping between the two women. Almost like her knight in shining armor. Or maybe a bodyguard. Or, well, whatever.
だからあなたをゴミくずのように叩き潰して排出するのは全部この天道刹那に任せるわ。せいぜい頑張って戦って頑張って絶望してちょうだい。
その前にクグツ空見の避難を優先すべきではないだろうか。
He shot a look in my direction, as I was still just standing there, completely removed from their prior conversation. His gaze reflected nothing that could be labeled as an emotion. As he leveled his gaze on me, I saw no hatred or sorrow, no curiosity or even compassion. He simply looked at me. At the very least, that was what it seemed like to me.
彼女は私が救出する。なのであなたはとっとと自称お強い天使様をぶっ飛ばしちゃいなさい。
So she's actually an angel. Well, that's different.
了解。対象をゲテルに確定する。
Setsuna then directed his gaze at the young girl he had referred to as Gethel.
力の天使。他者の視力を強奪し、隠された事柄を司る存在。そして、この小さな世界の支配者。ここで問題になるのは、君が何を隠しているかだろうな。君に何が起きた？
黙れって言ってる。
In the next moment, I lost sight of Setsuna for a heartbeat. A thunderous, ear-splitting crack echoed within the classroom as Setsuna grabbed Gethel by the head, driving her into the blackboard with tremendous force. So much, in fact, that the two broke through the wall behind it, vanishing from sight. As that otherworldly scene played out before my eyes, I sensed the oppressive pressure I had felt up to this point slowly dissipating. The realization that I might have been saved began to sink in.
あなた大丈夫？
The dark-haired girl's tone didn't reflect any genuine concern. Still, I gave her a sheepish nod.
見た感じ外傷もなさそうだしね。問題ないか。私の名前はリリスよ。よろしくね。
She wasn't Japanese, was she?
北欧の方？いえ、エデン出身よ。まあ、家庭の事情で引っ越して、その後は航海沿岸に住んでいたんだけど。
A wink and a mischievous laugh followed. Still, Eden? Wasn't there a country with that name? The only Eden I knew was from the Bible.
それで
What was I trying to ask her?
無理よ無理。この世界にあなたがやってきた経緯はあまりに煩雑でこんなところでのんびり語るには向かない代物よ。ああ、そうなの。じゃあいいや。
She gave me a puzzled look.
気にならないの？気になるんだけど、気にしても無駄なんでしょ？思考の切り替えしておかなきゃ。また殺されそうになっちゃう。あ、でも一つだけ答えて。これは夢？
I can't say her name with an S. Lilith's expression clouded over.
なるべく簡単に説明すると、この世界は極めて夢に近いわ。でも、あなたの夢じゃなくて、
先ほどまでここにいたゲテルの夢。
精神領域。
そう。ゲテルが支配したゲテルのためだけに存在する世界。物理を含めたあらゆる法則が彼女の支配下に置かれ、彼女が望んだことは何だって実現する。
ちょっと、望んだことが何でも実現するなら完全無敵じゃない。刹那って人勝てるの？
そう。勝率8割ってとこかしら。
どっちが？
Lilith merely answered that with yet another giggle.
心配なの？
そりゃ心配よ。わざわざ助けに来てくれたのに帰り討ちにあったって言うんじゃ。
うん。本当はさっさと脱出しようかとも思っていたんだけど、せっかくだし見物しますか。
Lilith spun around to take in her surroundings, her expression soon twisting into a frown, almost like she was seeing the place for the first time.
よく見たらこの教室ってひどい荒れ様だったわ。私はともかく、あなたにとってこのままというのはちょっとひどいわよね。
She casually made a broad gesture with her right arm. And just like that, all the corpses in the room disappeared. Despite having convinced myself that I wouldn't be surprised by anything at this point, her act still left me in awe.
よしよし、それでは。
Lilith... Why do I have so much trouble saying her name? Lilith snapped her fingers, summoning a massive projector screen above the teacher's podium. It displayed an image, the same hallway I explored just a short while ago. Setsuna and Gethel stood at opposite ends of the corridor, staring each other down. Wow, now this is an exciting PowerPoint presentation right here. Yeah, add a tumbleweed and the image would have been perfect. Setsuna responded to Gethel's openly contemptuous glare with an expression composed enough to be considered unsettling. In fact, composed might not have been the correct expression. He was tranquility incarnate. He did have a look of someone resolved to fight, yet lacked even the tiniest hint of excitement. There he stood in complete silence, his gaze like that of a man who made peace with the hand fate had dealt him. Excuse me. I was expendable. A silent darkness shrouded the corridor, its decayed floor littered with holes. Kugutsu Sorami's safety had been secured for the time being, yet I knew it was far too early to celebrate. The girl before me was the angel Gethel, possessing power enough to construct and maintain an illusionary world. The issue lay with whether or not she had managed to find her raison d'etre. According to Lilith, discovering one's raison d'etre proved essential in combat. Only a fool would do battle without it. In any event, dismantling her illusionary world would need to come first. Based on Lilith's prior briefing, there were two primary ways to achieve that, inflicting the necessary damage on either the world itself or its master. If at all possible, accomplishing both would be the most desirable.
それで、お前の名前は?
天道刹那。
Gethel practically spat the words out.
何? 巡礼者? ここまでたどり着ける力を持っているの。うすうす感づいているんじゃない? どうして自分がここに呼び出されたのかなんて。
それは。
Gethel considered me for a second, her lips curling into a wolfish grin.
知ってるでしょ? 知ってるでしょ? この世界の虚栄を、残忍さを。なら手を貸しなさいよ。一緒に壊しましょうよ。
I inhaled a deep breath. Verbal negotiations would yield no results.
あいにく、そういうのを防ぐために私が召喚されたんだよ。君は破壊、私は防衛。互いの立ち位置は明瞭だ。故に、君の希望を。
I lifted my right hand.
打ち砕く。
As the nanomachines within my bloodstream whirred to life, I felt my physical prowess skyrocket. The illusory world was in a state of flux. As such, I endeavored to prioritize avoiding increased interference with the real world. The same applied to making use of my budding skills at magical perception, doubly so against an angel.
そうなら仕方ないわ。ええ、仕方ないわ。この世はすべて欺瞞と疑念でできている。ならば、私の幻影が世界を覆ったところで問題はない。お前のビジョンも私の幻影に取り込んでやる。
As my breathing evened out, I signaled to Lilith by whispering to myself, letting her know that combat had been initiated.
原告をもって一切の非戦闘行為による解決を放棄、戦闘行動へ移行、撃滅による状況好転を目標とする。元宝、ウオードック、腹渡を食いちぎれ。
Gung ho.
なめんな
I lunged at her. Upon closing in our distance, my right fist crashed into her. No physical response. Her contours rippled, vanishing into thin air like a mirage. I turned to my left, having sensed a visual disturbance in the air, only to be propelled backwards by a kick.
一撃目、距離感強奪。
She had rendered my vision impaired. I proceeded to launch a series of kicks in the direction of her freshly materialized Gethel, or the freshly materialized Gethel standing right in front of me. No reaction. It seemed she did indeed disrupt my sense of distance, much like she had proclaimed.
二撃目、一認識強奪。
I felt a sharp pain in my right foot the moment it touched the ground. I stepped into a spike that I could have sworn wasn't there a moment before. The erosion of one's location awareness. Regardless of what I was actually seeing, I was unable to properly discern the location of objects in the environment.
どう？怖い？ねえ、怖いでしょ？お前は自分の視覚を信頼できる？
It must have been one of Gethel's abilities. As far as I recalled, she once inflicted blindness upon the Emorites, causing them to massacre one another. Let us assume that a truly skilled combatant, a master among masters, had lost his eyesight. Such a person would still be able to discern the opponent's location by sensing his presence, detecting the sounds he made, and so on. However, I still had my sight. In fact, my vision was being flooded with plenty of information. The fact that what I saw looked vivid and clear, unlike an illusion, was certainly not helping matters. As such, I elected to stop relying on my eyesight. I had no use for it here.
大して怖くない。もう対応できる。
Gethel's next strike came from the 7 o'clock direction. I caught her attack with my left arm while keeping my gaze fixed on her illusion.
確からを。
In an action that lasted no longer than a split second, I smashed my swollen right fist into Gethel's abdomen, finally yielding a reaction from her. Gethel's arm, the one that I had taken hold of earlier, was torn clean off as my strike sent her into the far end of the hallway. However, she vanished from view the moment I initiated pursuit, as I was about to halt my pursuit and advance at near the end of the hallway. I found myself pathetically crashing into the wall. I clutched the back of my head, muttering curses beneath my breath.
距離感がつかめないのを忘れない。
The now one-armed Gethel flashed a broad grin.
意外に効果あるでしょ。
Gethel picked up her right arm, quickly reattaching it. Even in her world of illusions, such an action saved her a considerable amount of time compared to having to recreate a lost limb from scratch.
さっきは油断した。 もう怪しげな魔術は使わせないから。
Gethel lunged forward with the speed and ferocity of a windstorm, her sharpened nails like talons of a falcon homing in on its prey. Shortly after I backed away from her strike into apparent safety, she followed it up with another attack aiming for my abdomen, one I could not foresee. I processed the information. This time I could see the attack aimed at my abdomen, which would lead to the logical conclusion that I sensed a faint distortion in the air before Gethel appeared behind me, preparing for a chokehold. I ducked out of the way, delivering a roundhouse kick to her face. Grabbing the invisible Gethel's face, I kicked myself into the air using a nearby wall, then slammed her into the ground in one swift motion. In the next moment, one of my fingers that hailed onto her face broke with a low crack. The process continued in various spots along my entire left arm, almost like a chain reaction of broken bones. Not particularly. I rose to my feet, forcing my fist into a ball, then rotated my wrist to complete the mending procedure. Whoops! Gethel stared at me, round-eyed. If I could not restore a broken arm, I would have no place on the battlefield. She appeared reluctant to accept it. After all, this was her realm, a territory under her absolute control. A place that stood as the manifestation of all her hopes and dreams. Hers was an eternal slumber. She drowned herself in a dream most sweet, hoping to never wake. In other words, the path to defeating Gethel was simple. If her dream encroached upon reality from all angles, its tyranny had to be met with... Let me try that again. Her tyranny had to be met in kind with destructive force. Gethel brandished a one-handed sword. The thick blade, covered partially in cloth, ended in a peculiar hook shape. Its fiendish steel seemed somewhat out of place in the hands of an angel. It had to be that sword. Long ago, a certain poet journeyed to the hill of Purgatory, where he came upon the angel guarding its stone-wrought gates. The angel lifted his sword and engraved the letter P 7 times on his forehead. The letter signified the man's sins. As he climbed each level of Purgatory, his sins would be absolved, and the letters would fade, one by one. The 7 deadly sins were as followed: gluttony, sloth, wrath, envy, pride, lust, and greed. A blade diabolic in its holiness and divine in its wickedness. The very same sword Gethel was now wielding. So she called him a pilgrim, and here she just called him a human. So he mentioned nanomachines, so he's got nanomachines in his blood. And obviously, he kind of alluded to the fact that science was his backup rather than magic. So this guy's almost superhuman on the basis of training and science rather than magic, I assume. Gethel moved in to attack, and though I made an attempt to dodge her incoming slash, she seemed to have boosted her own physical prowess by tapping into the vast pool of magical energies housed within the sword. My vision had been rendered a disorganized mess of information. Gethel advanced swiftly and silently, her steel biting into my flesh as I stood unable to evade her strike. A violent splash of blood spurted from my body as the sword engraved a sin upon it. As long as the sin remained unpurified, the wound would continue to perpetually ooze blood. Gethel howled with laughter as droplets of blood trickled down from the edge of her steel. Gethel appeared to have noticed how I closed up a wound that, by all accounts, should have been fatal. She stared at me in complete disbelief.
嘘よ。そんなの信じない。信じない。どうして人間ごときがこの剣に耐えられるのよ。どんな聖人にも生まれたての赤子にすら罪を刻むことのできるこの剣にどうして耐えられるの？
I fell silent, losing all vestiges of humanity I still had left. I wondered if she had noticed.
人間なんて神に祈り天使を崇め悪魔にすがるただそれだけの存在でしょうに。
随分と人間をバカにするものだな。君はその人間に信仰されていただろうに。
Gethel narrowed her eyes at my claim.
私は天使なんかじゃない。
そうか。なら君は何だと言うんだ。どういう存在だと認識すればいいんだ。
She remained silent. Her identity as an angel and that of something else must have clashed within Gethel's mind. At the moment, she was effectively neither. And in the end, her half-hearted inability to choose either left her a broken, ravaged mess. She finally began to realize that herself. Madness consumed her mind. Knowledge of the truth drove her to crippling despair. And so her tears were shed. Corpses piled upon corpses in her insatiable bloodlust. A fit of blind rage. Nothing more. Her madness escalated. Her terror erupted. Gethel's blade crashed down as I raised both arms in an attempt to block it. Yet her strike boasted such staggering ferocity that it sent me flying out the window. Gethel spread her wings and took flight to pursue me as I attempted to keep my distance in midair. We engaged each other in an otherworldly dogfight, incessantly alternating our battlefields between interior and exterior, air and ground, crashing through a dozen windows in the process. This is an interesting battle theme. Whoa. As Gethel hailed her steel aloft, the very earth trembled beneath our feet, splitting open to reveal a monstrous creature the size of a mountain. The creature had a reddish-brown carapace, crimson eyes, and jagged shark-like teeth. A layer of mist-like haze coiled around its terrible shape. I changed my course midair as the creature's colossal jaw closed at the exact same space I'd occupied mere seconds ago. The two girls watched over our unfolding battle from their improvised gallery. It took one swing of my arm. To make the beast go up in flames. It howled and bellowed as the fires consumed its massive frame, turning it to ashes within seconds. Well, the flames even reached Gethel, scorching her wings.
らの罪を労働なき富を持ちて永劫の眠りにいざなえ。
A thick, gooey mass of liquid materialized in the air, burning both the ceiling and walls its squirming appendages latched onto.
飲み込まれてしまえ。
I immediately leapt out the window, only to have the liquid gold slither after me in pursuit, like a blob. What I needed the most right now was cool air. Lowering the temperature in my right arm to its absolute minimum, I created a cloud. I flinched as a spear of pure gold grazed the skin near my shoulders. The liquid gold changed its shape, seemingly an attempt to impale me. Could it have been under Gethel's command? Still, I evaded the attack. I made the cloud release a considerable amount of cool rainwater at a distance close enough that I could feel the very heat of the molten gold on my skin. The liquid gold hissed and sizzled as it solidified, allowing me to use it as a foothold to close the distance between myself and Gethel. Gethel readied her sword. I sent her flying with another blow before she could finish the incantation and summon the creature. Gethel staggered to her feet, while wiping the blood staining her lips, her expression saturated with a vicious blend of frenzy and grief. Gethel attempted another frenzied swing in my direction, her voice now a desperate howl. Yet no matter how much power her catty sword could command, its steel had no effect on me. I caught the blow with one hand. I thrust my free arm in front of her face, transforming the cells of my hand into an electric generator. A terrible discharge of electric current shot forth. The resulting discharge struck her body as a bolt of fierce lightning. Gethel collapsed onto the floor with an audible thud, almost like she had just been shot by a high-caliber cannon round. So just what is this guy? He definitely doesn't seem like he's just a human. Moments later, I heard a low, splintering crack. I shot a glance at my surroundings, discovering a thin crevice on the wall near Gethel, its surface littered by dozens of vein-like cracks resembling a sheet of broken glass. The sheer amount of damage Gethel had suffered weakened the dividing line between reality and her illusory world. Deciding to use the spot as a starting point, I casually thrust a hand into the leaking fissure. I turned towards Gethel, completely ignoring her desperate attempt at pleading.
遊びは終わりだ。小さな支配者。八つ当たりでさらわれ、八つ当たりで殺され続けた彼らも、これでようやく解放される。解放ですって。ふざけるな！お前がやろうとしていることは私よりひどい。どこがだ？みんなここで幸せに過ごしているのに、みんなここで永遠に殺されて幸せなのに。もう喋るな。やめろ！やめて！やめて！やめて！
My arm began to emit a green-tinted light that transformed into a series of numerical figures, specifying the coordinates of this microcosm.
ラジエルの力で現実とのリンクが完了した。これより削除が開始される。
And with that, the process began, resembling the work of a gargantuan vacuum cleaner, sucking up and disposing of all things that once constituted this world. Naturally, we were no exception either. As I found my consciousness being dragged back into reality in the blink of an eye, I caught a brief glimpse of the world nestled in the crevice between the real world and the illusory one, a vision of my past. What I once was. Human in nature, yet denied human treatment, a being transcending mankind. I found no point in dwelling upon it. My primary concern was to return to reality, destroy Gethel, and safely extract Kugutsu Sorami. That was the most I could do. Okay. I don't think we're gonna probably get a better stopping point for quite some time, and I have much less time to record today anyway, so I think we're gonna end today's episode here, albeit a bit shorter than the past couple. So, that's intriguing. I feel like the game has been go from the start. I kind of hope that the game takes a minute and starts to develop its characters a lot more strongly now, because while I've enjoyed the sort of the premise, the atmosphere, I guess is the word I'm looking for, of the game. The atmosphere I like, but so far we've had no reason to care about any of the characters, and that includes the protagonist, Sorami. So I really hope the game slows down for a little bit here and gives it a minute to breathe and breathe some characterization into all of its characters and its world. Because so far I'm just kind of lost, and I'm wanting a reason to care about the characters, but I do like the atmosphere of the game. So I feel like if it can nail the characters, then we'll be heading into something really good here. But I guess we will see, won't we? So as always, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you all next time.